All right, YouTube, this Detroit's HPTV coming at you with another update and a look into the migrant crisis. I want to show you the secret, let me see what they're calling them, secret migrant camps on the East Coast. This is off redacted news. It's going to give you a look into how they're hiding them right in the inner cities. And it's interesting that this is not widely known or being talked about, that they had actual migrant camps within the inner cities before you even start seeing them like on the streets. I'm gonna let you look at it. I'm gonna let you look at it for yourself. This for fair use under the 1976 Copyright Act for commentary and educational purposes. Check this out.
Taxing city resources, of course, once reserved for people who pay taxes, and then combine. Well, the U.S. border invasion is destroying America's biggest cities with crime, rampant crime, taxing city resources, of course, once reserved for people who pay taxes, and then combine that with defunding the police departments. And it's a perfect storm. Chicago is being ripped apart. Even Obama advisor David Axelrod admitted as much this weekend.
You know, whatever you think about what Governor Abbott has done, it was diabolically clever because by shipping these migrants to cities that call themselves, now I'm forgetting the phrase, but sanctuary cities, he has created issue. I come from Chicago. Chicago has been torn apart by this issue. New York has been torn apart by this issue. And suddenly Democrats are engaged in this issue in a different way than they had been. So that has been very effective.
But perhaps no city has had it worse than the Big Apple, America's largest sanctuary city. The great team over at muckraker.com found 3 massive migrant camps. They're built using taxpayer dollars that were built on prime New York real estate. Watch this.
Since Joe Biden was put in office, hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens have taken refuge in New York City, the largest sanctuary city in the United States. To handle this, numerous illegal alien compounds have been established on what was once prime New York real estate. Muckraker conducted the first ever investigation of 3 of these compounds.
Anthony Rubin from muckraker.com joins us now, who is exposing these migrant camps. Anthony, welcome to the show. Amazing work here. Thanks for what you're doing.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
So how did you first learn about these migrant camps, and who started building these? How long ago were they built?
These have been around since, honestly, around when Joe Biden was put in office. And they are very expensive. For example, one of them, the Row Hotel, which has been around for years now. It's estimated that costs anywhere from $500 per day per person, and there's around 5,000 people in there at any given time, roughly speaking. So you can imagine, just how expensive that is. The other one that we went to, or that we saw, was Randall's Island. That, again, estimated to cost around $20 million per month to operate, right? And so this is all funded largely, entirely by New York State and the federal government, of course. I guess that's obvious. And these things are massive. Between the 3 that we saw, we're talking, 5 digits worth of people.
Welcome to Bigo, where connections come alive. Anytime, anywhere. Download Bigo.
Do we know which department on the federal side has been funding this into the states? Obviously, the states' coffers are being really taxed. We've heard from New York City Mayor Eric Adams how taxed they are. So, do we know what department? Is it coming from the Department of Homeland Security?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And that's actually a fault of mine that I don't have that for you right now. I'm not entirely sure what department that's coming from, but it's split, and it's split between state and federal, and that's one of the things you keep hearing Mayor Adams talk about. He's like, well, we're going to get help from the state, or we're going to get help from the federal government on this. Trying to sort of act like he's lessening the blow to the people of New York, who are really the ones that are getting hurt here. I mean, these are built on, like you said, prime New York real estate. The Row Hotel is 1 block from Times Square, right? You got homeless Americans that are walking around out there. I can't imagine being a New Yorker. If you're living in Manhattan, you're paying between state and federal and city taxes. At the end of the day, you're paying like 50% of your income in taxes. And you have these people that came over here, have never paid a dime, never contributed to the country. They're living for free and, getting free food and basically, lowering the price of your property and everything else. So that's what's going on. It must be infuriating for people living there.
Yeah, I used to work in New York City. I used to work one block away from the Row Hotel when I worked at Fox News in Midtown Manhattan. And of course, you're paying a city tax to work in the city. Even if you live out in New Jersey or Connecticut or some other place, you're paying that city tax. And of course, then you're also paying $30, I think it is, to come across and use the Lincoln Tunnel or use the Holland Tunnel to come through. You're paying all of these taxes coming and going into New York City. But these individuals, of course, don't have to pay any of that. We do know in other reports that FEMA dollars have been used, Federal Emergency Management Agency money, to set up and support some of these camps and other areas. So one can only imagine where this money is flowing from. But I want to talk about the camps themselves. You obtained this video. And can you just walk me through what these camps look like? Who's in these camps? Where are these individuals coming from? And what sort of staffing do they have?
Absolutely. So, great question. So, what types of individuals? Individuals from all over. Obviously, South South Americans for sure, right? You got the Colombians, the Venezuelans, the Ecuadorians for sure. But then you got other ones. There was actually a couple of people that we saw in there from Russia, surprisingly. There were some Chinese in there, which I found interesting because usually the Chinese are more well funded, right? But we actually in this footage saw a Chinese man who was at the Row Hotel. If you check out Randall's Island, the footage there, it's actually full of men from Africa. We're talking Guinea, Senegal, and some other countries there mixed in, but those were some of the big ones. Morocco was another one. And, those are the kind of people that you're seeing in some of these places. But, depending on where you look, for example, I didn't see in this footage any Africans at the Row Hotel, but Randall's full of Africans almost entirely.
And it's interesting. Are these individuals coming up on buses that have been provided to them with U.S. taxpayer dollars, or are they migrating into New York City some other way, using some other mechanism? Because we've seen, obviously, Governor Abbott and others, of course, using the buses then to take them to these sanctuary cities. As you heard David Axelrod just talking about, it's been as he described it, a diabolical plan. Are they coming that way or through some other mechanism?
Yeah, well, to the best of my knowledge, some of them come up there on their own accord, and some of them, I believe, have their bus tickets funded by whatever charity. They decide basically, here's where I want to go. I want to go to Chicago, or I want to go to New York, and they get sent up there. And because New York City is a sanctuary city, actually by law, a law that was actually recently overturned, which is, I suppose, is actually a good thing for the people of New York City that are actually paying taxes. But up until that law was overturned, I believe earlier this month or last month in January, basically anybody that came to New York City that was trying to claim asylum, quote unquote, got to or was entitled to shelter. And so that's why you had all these people living in these places. And so they would stay for 30 days or 60 days. Whenever their time ran out, they could basically just go and reapply again and say, hey, I haven't found a job. I'm going to be on the streets. I want to reapply to the same shelter or get relocated again. And actually, this whistleblower who formerly worked at these places, who worked at the Row Hotel in Randall's Island, Carlos Arellano, told me that what will happen is these people will actually get tired of living at a certain place. They'll get tired of living in New York, for example, and they'll say, you know what, I want to go to Chicago. And, the taxpayer will actually have to foot the bill for their bus ticket to go over to Chicago because that's another sanctuary city. It's all paid for.
Can you imagine? You want to just take a vacation, you want to travel the country, and you just call up your local illegal immigration representative, and they provide you with a bus ticket, or they provide you with a plane ticket, and they're ferrying you around the United States at your leisure, whatever you like, no problem, on U.S. taxpayer dollars. It's unbelievable. When you were there, or the individuals who been able to obtain this video at these different facilities, these different migrant compounds, I'm curious about the security. So I have so many questions about this, Anthony. Like, these guys, are they under security? Are they under watch? Can these people come and go from these compounds? Because They have court dates. A lot of them have court dates many years in the future. The idea that we're going to be tracking these individuals, we know where they are, we're monitoring all of their movements. Are we?
This is another in-depth look at this migrant crisis. You got to look at it from all aspects. The Roosevelt Hotel, they were hiding the migrants in plain sight, until it just got out of hand. Now you're seeing about it. But there have been migrant compounds all throughout the country. That's why it's an influx of migrants just popping up on the city streets.
Do we know who's coming and going in these facilities, and are we tracking them at all?
They can come and go as they please. As far as I can tell, they can leave. They can go work if they want to work off the books, and then they can come back and have a free place to sleep and free food and all that. Now, as far as the security goes, that's a good question. Security, according to them, this is out of their mouths, they're not allowed to search these people, right? Unless there's something even if there's something obscene, they can't do anything about it. They have to call the police. So you have people, and they don't even have metal detectors or anything like that. So there's reports of people walking in there with knives. There's reports of stabbings in these places. There's also reports of security guards that are, again, these are not my claims. These are, this is from people that are on the ground in these facilities that are working there, of these security guards going out and getting stoned on the job and coming back to the job totally stoned and, not really paying attention to anything. And the whole thing's a joke. And so, like I said earlier, though, in the beginning of this question, these people could come and go as they please. And so you can only imagine what may be being brought back and forth in between some of these camps.
You've obviously followed the migrants all the way up from Quito, Ecuador, all the way up through the Darien Gap, all the way into the United States. Your reporting on this has been stiff.
I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to show you what's on there now. So you can just get a look at the influx.
Humanitarian crisis all tied to immigration, migrants coming here to the cities, unfolding on city streets, and we're more than...
Now I want you to look at this. Look at this close.
The humanitarian crisis all tied to immigration, migrants coming here to the cities, unfolding on city streets, and we are more than 2,000 miles, of course, from the southern border. New York's leaders say they are struggling to house more than 57,000 asylum seekers currently in the city's care, more arriving every week. Some of those migrants without beds indoors have been sleeping on the streets. Mayor Eric Adams is now sounding the alarm and says he wants the federal government to take action. And Mayor Adams joins us right now. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yesterday you said you're on pace to spend $5 billion on migrant care in this fiscal year. To give people some perspective, that is more than the city spends on sanitation, parks, and the fire department combined. So you're asking for money here. Do I have that right?
A combination, more than money, because the faucet is flowing. We have to stop the faucet. We have to make sure we have a real decompression strategy at the border. And we have to ensure that we have real immigration reform, because it's going to continue. It's not sustainable. When you look at 10,000 a month, the math just does not add up.
Reform to the system is a long...
He asked to be a sanctuary city. He volunteered for this. And now he doesn't even support the stopping of it. He's trying to accommodate more of it. I'm going to let you listen to a little bit more of this.
Term fix that's going to have to go through Congress. Short term, are you frustrated with the Biden administration? Do you place blame on them for a more welcoming stance that has led to this record surge?
There's a lot of blame to go around. Again, the Republicans have been blocking real immigration reform. We're seeing that FEMA is using dollars on the southern border to allow people to bus people to New York City. And what's at the heart of all of this for me is, what is more American than the right to work? Why are we having thousands of people here that are not given the basic premise. The precursor to sleep to American dream is the ability to work.
It's a 1996 law. It says you got to sit out for 5 months, right? You need that work.
And that's even with an asterisk, because even when you sit out for those 5 months, the backlog is so much. Some people could wait anywhere from a year and a half to 2 years. And so we're saying, in essence, that we have to take care of 97,000 people: food, shelter, clothing, educate the children, the entire combination, and it just continues to.
I'm gonna stop there. You can find more of what he's talking about, but he signed on for it, and he allowed them to have those hidden compounds within the city before it even overflowed like that. Signing out of Detroit. Keep your head on swivel. Pay attention. Things aren't what they seem. Like, share, and subscribe.